In our discussion this morning, we are looking at the recent development of the Forex market amid reforms. To discuss this with us is Abdulmumin Ali, financial expert. Is joining us via Zoom from Lagos. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay, how's Lagos this morning?
Very humid. Lagos remains Lagos. After the long holidays, we're back to the hustle and bustle. And
Okay, now let's delve into it. Okay.
it's a good morning.
Okay. We have seen the Naira appreciated and seems more stable recently. How much of this can be attributed to CBN Forex reforms?
I would say, on the face of it, 100%. I say 100% because the actions of the CBN have been very, very concise and deliberate. Ever since the governor started making pronouncements on the exchange rate after he got to office, he's taken a series of actions that have clearly impacted, as it were today, on the value of the Naira vis-a-vis the dollar. Let's quickly recap the things that he has done. At the penultimate Monetary Policy Committee meeting, one of the actions he took there, or the committee took there, was to increase the cash reserve ratio to about 45%, very strangling on the commercial banks. But what it sought to do was to reduce the amount of Naira in the market, because at the end of the day, the dollar is just another commodity. So what determines the price of the dollar vis-a-vis the Naira is how much Naira is available to chase the dollar. So that action of the CBN, of pushing up the cash reserve ratio to 45% clearly reduced the amount of Naira out of the markets. That's one. Then secondly, the MPC rate, that's the monetary policy rate rather, was moved up by 400 basis points in the first instance, and about 200 basis points, that's last month, and about 200 basis points this month, to close at 24.75%. What this communicates is that is the rate at which the CBN will borrow money or lend money, as it were, to commercial banks. And that sets the tone for what becomes the interest rates in the economy. By jacking it up, yes, has some huge inflationary pressure, but what it means is that it's the consumer who has his Naira is now incentivized, as it were, to save this money, and by so doing, right, that money is no more available, as it were, to pursue goods and services in the market. And the effect of this is that there's less Naira in circulation, and of course, the value of the Naira vis-a-vis the dollar,
but some people will argue that that has increased the cost of borrowing, most especially at a time when doing business is quite expensive, and we have the small and medium scale enterprises which constitute a major, who is the major employer in our economy, is having it really difficult to access capital.
That is also correct, but sometimes when the doctor is giving you a prescription, in the short run, the side effects of the doses that have been administered upon the patient might not look, if you are looking at a time frame of maybe a day or two, and there's going to be a side reaction of a temperature spike, increased fever or whatever you have. I'm trying to use that as an analogy, right? What the doctor is looking at is long term. So for Mr. Cardoso, yes, he's taking some hard decisions, but that is with a view to stabilizing the Naira, at least in the short term, so that we can at least breathe and find a way, to manage our exchange rate. Of course, at the end of the day, what will ultimately change the dynamics for us is what we export vis-a-vis what we import. Today, our oil facilities are all down. Crude oil is a major export, and it's not going to, we're not going to turn turn on the tap back in a day or two. It's going to take quite a while to get that going. We're looking at a time frame of probably 18 months to 24 months. So in the interim, we might have to take this pill. Yes, small scale, medium scale will suffer. Even the big players also will suffer. But on the flip side, right, we have more stability. And remember that this set of actions make the Nigerian space attractive to investors. Now, attractive, you can argue that what it will attract is hot money, cold money for now, right? It will do what it has to do. It will help us in stabilizing while we can plan and think long term. But first of all, we must have a basis for our long term plan. And I think Mr. Cardoso has been very, very concise and deliberate in all his policy statements and actions since he assumed that central bank.
And coming back to the argument,
I might add.
And coming back to the argument you just made on, increasing the monetary policy rate again. There's this school of thought, like let's say the Manufacturer Association were not actually, it didn't go down well with them. Then also when you look at it, inflation is not just the inflation we experience, it's not just a monetary policy thing. It has to, it needs the fiscal side to also complement things.
Yes, they're the fiscal side that will complement things, and recent actions begin to show some understanding by the government, in taking those decisions that will complement the monetary policy efforts of the central bank. I'll give an example. Only I think a couple of weeks or 3 weeks ago, President Bola Tinubu came out with a directive that no government department, ministry, department, or agency official can travel out of the country for whatever pretext. Basically, that alone cuts expenditure. It's sending a message. Yeah, you can argue that it's not such a huge figure that will be saved, but basically it's communicating to all that the government intends to get very, very serious on the way we spend our scarce resources. So if today no MDA head ministry, no MDA head or DG can travel out of the country without expressly getting some kind of clearance, right, from the center, it communicates that we are now getting deliberate about cutting our costs. And all this, if they converge properly, should be the beginning of a unison, so to speak, between monetary policy and fiscal policies towards achieving the greater goal.
Now, the clearing the FX backlog by the central bank has somehow boosted investor confidence. How better can it possibly get at this point in time?
The message is very, very clear. Mr. Cardoso has cleared about 7 billion in FX backlogs. The last tranche was cleared, about 1.5 billion was cleared last week. And that communicates strongly that, we are taking those steps, to get back into business. The airlines are no more screaming, oh, we've got XYZ amount of dollars, trapped in Nigeria. Everybody, at least everybody that has a valid claim, has had those claims extinguished. If you listen to the CBN governor when he was making this, telling us about what they had done on FX backlog, you get the confidence. Look, this is what we inherited. We investigated, and this is what we considered valid. And for everything that we considered valid, we have, paid down, and it can only be better going forward. All the factors point to these. All the triggers point to the fact that, we are hitting the right notes. And I'm confident that we'll clearly be better off in the long run.
Now that the CBN has involved BDCs in the market, how soon are we likely to get to that point of convergence with the official rate and the parallel market rate? Where it comes to converge, then we now have a single Forex market rate.
We're never really going to have a single market rate. And the reason is very simple. In the unofficial markets, documentation requirements are far, far less. Transactions can be done mostly spot, so you're always going to have a margin between the official and unofficial, or at least the CPM rates and the parallel market rates. That margin will always be there. The issue has always been the margin should be something that is reasonable. If you notice, the effects that the CBN is giving to the BDCs today is highly regulated. The margins are specific. You can't this. You are getting the money at this rate. This is the maximum you can go in terms of margin. So that is the way an FX market really should operate. I mean, vis-a-vis margins. Remember that we're coming from a place where, at a point in time, the difference between the official rates and the unofficial rates was as high as 450 naira. I mean, that was clearly ridiculous. And of course, that gave room to all forms of arbitrage and people gaming the system, as it were. But today, the system is appearing much saner. There's almost a convergence. As a matter of fact, at some time, a couple of weeks ago, momentarily, the parallel market was actually lower than the official market. So I think we are actually there.
A lot of people may argue that, some people argue that, well, that's not the rate at which the current CBN governor met it when he came to office. But the thing here is, when are we going to expect the Forex rate to actually go down to a level where we can, simply go to the market and afford things that we import into the country?
The question is, at what level are we going to? What is that hypothetical level that we'll get to where people will be able to afford things and just go to the market? I use the word hypothetical very strongly because, what will work for X will not work for Y. But back to this discussion, ultimately, as a people, we will have to learn how to produce. We will have to learn how to eat that which we consume, how to produce that which we consume. You will notice that most of our a big chunk of our FX spend goes into medicals, medical tourism, goes into education, and with the current FX rate, what has happened is that most schools abroad that had Nigerian children of the elite and middle class and the rich, of course, has had to withdraw many of these schools and return them back to Nigerian schools. And these are what we're talking about. If we had cultivated a habit over the years of throwing all our resources, in trying to get what I want to call prestige, buying luxury items that we can as well produce here, and the new FX rate seeks to correct that, I think in the long run will be better for it, because we will have to roll up our sleeves and begin to do those things that we always had the capacity to do, that we outsourced in times past. And if that begins to happen, then that will be the real gains. So if anybody is thinking, for instance, that we are going to go back to some point in time where FX will be 450 naira to the dollar, the highly subsidized rate that we had going for us last year, that's not going to happen again. We will have to find some stability around the current dynamics, the current realities of the market, and find a way to shift up what we produce and be more rational about what we consume.
You find the stability briefly. Is it in exports?
Oh, clearly exports. Today, we are not going to suddenly begin to export things because we have not been producing things for quite a while. But one of the points we start from, for instance, which is the logical direction that the government is looking at, is oil. At least that's what we currently export in huge quantity. We've had all kind of disruptions in that side of our economy and 4 months. Now, if we get that going, then we'll begin to do other things. Now, remember that while doing that, We are not folding our arms in the other sectors, but that is where we can get immediate results. And that is where I expect most of our attention to be directed as of today.
Thank you very much, Abdulmumin Ali. It's been a pleasure talking to you this morning. I wish we could do this next time.
All right, then. Have a great day.
Yeah.